Next, we're going to talk about natural environment training. Natural environment training, or natural environment teaching, is a method of teaching skills where you use the environment that's natural to the student and you embed those skills into that specific environment. You use the child's interests to guide your training, and you utilize the student's interest to naturally reinforce the skills that they're exhibiting. There are many different skills that you can address in a natural environment training session. Here's a few of them. Remember back to our discussion on the verbal behavior assessment and the definitions of all of these. Feel free to take time to review those definitions specifically so you can get a better grasp on what these mean. While you can teach the same skills in a discrete trial training session versus a net session, the structure is different. In a net session, there's less structure, or it's more loosely structured, and the items used, or the stimuli, are more based about the child's interest and the setting, as opposed to it being more contrived based on something that you come up with. Some people might describe this as student-led versus instructor-led. In DTT trials, the responses are directly related to the reinforcers and are not always functionally related to the response. So, for example, if you're doing a sorting task with a child, the sorting task might be reinforced with an edible like an M&M, whereas in a net training, the edible would have to be functionally related to the child's response. So the child would have to ask for the edible, or ask for a specific color or something like that. Another example of this might be if the child is trying to learn to ask for things that are missing. In a DTT session, you might set this up for them. For example, you might use a Mr. Potato Head and have the eyes missing, and asking for the Mr. Potato Head's eyes might not interest the child. But if you set up something where their favorite toy was missing their favorite part of the toy, for example, if their favorite doll was missing its hat, then they would be more motivated by that and it would be more functionally related. Learning how to teach in the natural environment takes a lot of practice. It's definitely not something that necessarily comes naturally the first time that you try it, um, especially if you're very used to DTT type training. In the natural environment, you want to walk into the environment and notice things that the child has an interest in and relate that back to the goals that you are to be working on, and find a way to uniquely combine the two. If you need help with this, this is something that your supervisor can definitely help model for you in order for you to learn it better. But in general, I think it's a good rule of thumb to try practicing it so that you can learn while you practice. If you find that you're not necessarily hitting a lot of goals that are on the child's treatment plan while doing net type training, you might consider adjusting the environment slightly in order to make these types of goals more feasible. Or you might talk with your supervisor about if these goals are relevant in this type of training method or if you should use a different one.
You have the car? What do you do with the car?
Drive it.
Yeah, you can drive in a car, you can ride in a car. Good job. What color is the car?
Purple.
No, it's a red car.
Red?
Yeah, it's red. Good job.
As you noticed in that video, it was very loosely structured. He followed her interest, the car, and embedded the programs that he needed to run with her using her interest. As we mentioned previously, one of the best ways to get a more comprehensive grasp on net is to practice it. So go ahead and start your guided experiential session 9. See your supervisor to help guide you in which session to go to.